Welcome back for another book review. Today we're talking about this one. So this is Magic for Troubled Times, Rituals, Recipes, and Real Talk for Witches by Deborah Castellano. I think it's how it's supposed to be said. So this is a book that, again, most of the time the titles are really appropriate. It is a book for troubled times such as death, divorce, and so on. But there is like a decent chunk of, if you had a lot of trauma from the pandemic, I think you would have more of like a connection to this book. I would give this a 4 out of 5 star. I absolutely loved the first few chapters of this book. It was fantastic. I was in love with it. The writing was fun. The exercises were really interesting. There's one that I'm still like mulling in the brain. And like the writing is just like, it's sassy, and like if a book can inspire me, that's a win for me. I didn't want to stop writing. I was like, oh my god, this book is gonna be like so good. And like sometimes there are books that like you read it and even if they're small, they pack a punch. Like this was giving me like the first time I read through Journey to the Dark Goddess vibes, where I was like, yeah, this is cool. This is something I haven't seen before. Love this. However, it takes a dramatic twist because it feels like the first few chapters, initially like the core concepts were written prior to the book actually being written. And when she sat down to write the rest of this book, the pandemic began. And this book kind of became more of a memoir of her experience throughout the pandemic, which is not how our experience was with it at all. Like, I've told this 1,000 times, but like, for some people, the pandemic greatly changed your life. That's your experience. For some, all of the people that I know, our world did not change at all. You had to wear a mask. That was it. You had to do a little bit extra cleaning. That was it. We got a luxury of deliveries to my town that's like not that far from civilization, but delivery places think it's far from everywhere. So they don't usually deliver, and they just started to deliver here. And then they stopped immediately once the lockdowns were done. You're like, that's cool. We still live here. You proved you could get here, but whatever. I guess you needed our business when it was convenient. Other than that, nothing changed at all. Like, it did not have this drastic, radical change to our world. If anything, the bigger radical change was that Utah had a fairly significant earthquake. And it was the first, like, real, oh god, earthquake. And if you don't know, living here in Utah, you get a little bit of anxiety because one day the mountain is going to shift. And when it shifts, it's gonna fuck our days because it's supposed to be a really big, really bad earthquake. Definitely hope it doesn't happen in my lifetime. And so like that was a bigger traumatic event that happened in 2020 compared to the pandemic. That was just an annoyance. Earthquake, where it's like, well, shit, like your house is trying to come down and like you have foundational problems and a lot of houses were kind of displaced from it. Like, that was a bigger deal. Now, is that everyone's lived experience? No. But as somebody who didn't have like a life-altering, like, oh my god, moment from the pandemic, reading about it gets old fast. And she talks about how it's going to date her book, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of don't like to read books that I know were written during that time because that's all you could focus on. And like, it was a blip in time. Really. And like, it was big for some people, but again, not for everybody. And it just, you get tired of reading it. And it really took away from the message of the book that could have been so good, could have been so timeless. And then it wasn't. And it just became a memoir of her experience with the pandemic. And then even the exercises started to really lessen. And it feels like the start book and the rest of the book are two different things. And it's like, I loved the first little bit. That was cool. We were getting places. And then it just like fizzled into just dealing with the pandemic and like really, meh. It was just really random that I didn't love it. So needless to say, the intended audience is going to be anybody who is wanting that kind of a thing. If you love to commiserate how horrible the pandemic was for you and how it was life-changing and just chaos, this is a great book to read. Because sometimes you want that. You want to sit in those feelings, that experience, and have other people have that echo chamber back at you. Sometimes you do need that. That's fine. This is a great book for you. If you want some ideas for some magical things, for varying levels of troubled times, it's got some there. Again, the first half feels way more impactful than the second half to me, and I do feel like most of this book is really aimed at intermediate to advanced practitioners. If you're a beginner, maybe wait a couple years before you grab this one. Would I buy this? Like, maybe. It's like a probably. Because it's one of those that it's like, the first half was so good that is it worth just ignoring the second half? Because again, when I get very inspired by a book, it makes me want to own it. However, I don't care about pandemic books. So it's like a iffy. It's like if I stumbled across it in the wild and I had like a gift card and I didn't have any of the other like major books I wanted to get and it was there, or I was at like a thrift store, I would probably grab it. Am I gonna go buy this immediately? Probably not. I have a long list of better books to get first. So anyways, I would love to know your thoughts on this one in the comments down below. Did you like it? Did you not? I am curious because the reviews were like mostly positive, and then there's a couple like really not digging the pandemic side of it too. And it's like, again, the first part, I really loved it. Didn't love the pandemic side of it, but if that's your thing, you're set. This is a really good book for you. So anyways, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments down below. As always, a huge thank you to my patrons. If you want to support me and get access to exclusive content, it is patreon.com/nightwillowcrafts. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I post every single day. And until next time, thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.